The $5 date. Sarah Chun stared at the crumpled $5 bill in her palm, her heart sinking as she sat alone in the elegant restaurant. The soft glow of crystal chandeliers cast warm shadows across the white tablecloths, and the gentle murmur of conversation filled the air around her. She had never felt more out of place. Her phone buzzed against the table. Another message from her roommate asking how the blind date was going. Sarah couldn't bring herself to respond. How could she explain that her date, Marcus, had taken one look at the modest restaurant she'd suggested and insisted they come here instead? How could she admit that he'd excused himself to the restroom 20 minutes ago and hadn't returned? The waiter approached her table with practiced elegance, his polished shoes clicking softly against the hardwood floor. "Would you care to order an appetizer while you wait, miss?" Sarah's cheeks burned with embarrassment. She glanced down at the menu, where even the simplest salad cost more than twice what she had in her wallet. Just water for now, please," she whispered. The waiter nodded kindly, though she caught a flicker of sympathy in his eyes. As he walked away, Sarah felt the weight of curious glances from other diners. She pulled out her phone again, pretending to be engrossed in an important message while her heart raced with anxiety. At the table behind her, David Morrison watched the young woman's shoulders tense with each passing minute. He had been dining alone, trying to enjoy a rare evening, away from his responsibilities as both a CEO and a single father to his 7-year-old daughter Emma, but something about the woman's quiet distress had captured his attention. David had built his technology company from nothing. He understood what it felt like to count every dollar, to feel the sharp edge of financial worry. The woman's careful movements, the way she folded and refolded her napkin, the anxious glances toward the entrance, it all spoke to him of someone struggling to maintain dignity in an impossible situation. He noticed when she checked her phone for what must have been the 10th time. He saw her eyes glisten with unshed tears when the waiter returned with a basket of bread, clearly a gesture of kindness that only seemed to make her more uncomfortable. David made a decision. He stood quietly, straightening his navy blazer, and walked to the host station near the front of the restaurant. The maître d', a distinguished man named Antonio, whom David knew from his frequent business dinners here, greeted him warmly. Double quotes, "Mr. Morrison, how can I help you?" David glanced back at Sarah's table, then leaned in close to Antonio. They spoke in hushed tones for several minutes. Antonio nodded thoughtfully, then smiled with understanding. A few minutes later, Antonio approached Sarah's table with a gentle expression. "Miss, I have some wonderful news. You've been selected for our new customer appreciation program. Tonight's dinner is complimentary, courtesy of the restaurant's management." Sarah looked up in confusion, her blue eyes wide. "I'm sorry, what?" "It's quite simple," Antonio continued smoothly. "We occasionally select guests to receive a complimentary dining experience. No strings attached. Consider it our way of saying thank you for choosing our establishment." Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she set down her phone. "Are you sure? I mean, there hasn't been some mistake?" "No mistake at all. In fact, I'd like to recommend our salmon with roasted vegetables. It's the chef's specialty tonight." For the first time since entering the restaurant, Sarah allowed herself to smile. That sounds lovely." As Antonio walked away, Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. She still didn't understand what had happened to Marcus, but somehow that seemed less important now. Maybe this was the universe's way of telling her that she deserved better than someone who would abandon her in a fancy restaurant. David returned to his table, positioning himself so he could discreetly observe without staring. He watched as Sarah's posture relaxed as she finally opened the menu without the worried crease between her eyebrows. When her dinner arrived, he saw her close her eyes briefly, savoring the first bite with genuine appreciation. About halfway through her meal, Sarah's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Sorry, had to leave. Emergency came up. Let's try again sometime." She stared at the message for a long moment, then quietly deleted it. Some emergencies, she realized, were actually blessings in disguise. As Sarah finished her dinner, she felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see a man in an expensive suit, but his expression was warm and approachable. It was David, though she didn't know his name yet. "Excuse me," he said softly. "I hope you don't mind my interrupting, but I couldn't help but notice you were dining alone. I'm David, and I wanted to say that anyone who handles disappointment with such grace deserves to know that not everyone would walk away." Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks, but not from embarrassment this time. "Sarah," she replied simply, "and thank you, but you don't know what happened. You're right, I don't know the specifics, but I know what it looks like when someone is forgotten by someone who doesn't deserve them." They talked for 20 minutes. David learned that Sarah worked at a local nonprofit, that she'd been saving for weeks just to afford this date, that she'd almost canceled 3 times because she was worried about the cost. Sarah learned that David had a young daughter, that he'd built his company while working 2 other jobs, that he remembered every lean month and empty refrigerator from his early days. When it came time to leave, David walked Sarah to the parking lot. Under the soft glow of the streetlights, he turned to her with a question that would change both their lives. "Sarah, would you be interested in having coffee with me this weekend? Somewhere casual, where we can just talk." "My treat, and I promise not to disappear to the restroom," Sarah laughed, a real laugh that seemed to bubble up from somewhere deep inside her. "I'd like that very much." As David watched Sarah drive away in her modest Honda, he realized something had shifted inside him. He'd spent so many years building walls, protecting himself and Emma from disappointment. But there was something about Sarah's quiet strength, her dignity in the face of humiliation, that made him want to take a chance again. Later that evening, as he tucked Emma into bed, she asked him why he seemed so happy. "Daddy met someone special tonight," he said softly, brushing her hair back from her forehead. "Someone who might want to have tea parties with us?" Emma asked hopefully. David smiled, thinking of Sarah's genuine laugh and kind eyes. "Maybe, sweetheart. We'll see." Sometimes, he thought as he turned off Emma's bedroom light, the best things happen when we're brave enough to help someone else and open enough to let them help us in return.